Have you ever sat in the quiet of your living room, looking at old photos, birthdays, graduations, holidays, wondering how the warmth of those memories faded into the cold distance of today? Maybe the phone calls have slowed to a trickle. Maybe the visits feel obligatory. Or maybe there's a painful silence between you and your grown children that you never imagined would exist. And now, over 60, with more years behind than ahead, you're left asking yourself, what happened to the respect we once had? You're not alone. So many loving parents reach this season of life feeling sidelined, misunderstood, or even resented by the very people they once cradled in their arms. But here's what I want to tell you, right now, from the heart. It's not too late. No matter how strained the relationship has become, no matter how far the gap may seem, you have the power, starting today, to rebuild the respect, the love, and the connection you so deeply long for with your adult children. This is not about regaining control or reliving the past. It's about reestablishing a bond rooted in mutual understanding, emotional maturity, and the unshakable desire for healing. Respect doesn't vanish overnight. It often erodes slowly, through misunderstandings, through the inevitable changes that come with time, through moments where words were said that shouldn't have been, or moments when words needed to be spoken and weren't. But respect can also be rebuilt, piece by piece, with honesty, humility, and heartfelt action. The first step in this journey, looking inward. Before we can rebuild respect from others, we have to ask ourselves some very real, sometimes uncomfortable questions. Have I truly acknowledged how my actions, past or present, might have made my children feel? Have I listened to their perspectives without judgment or trying to defend myself? Have I been present, emotionally available, and willing to grow? Even now, at this stage in life, the truth is, parenting doesn't end when your children turn 18. It evolves. And in some ways, the most delicate, emotionally demanding parenting comes when your children become adults. Because now, they're no longer obligated to love you. They choose to, based on how respected, heard, and safe they feel with you. And that's a hard reality to swallow for many parents who feel they gave their whole lives to raising their kids. But rebuilding respect doesn't mean begging or apologizing endlessly. It means showing up differently. It means being willing to learn, to change, and to lead with vulnerability rather than authority. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is to acknowledge the past with sincerity. This doesn't mean rehashing every mistake, but rather recognizing that even the best intentions can sometimes cause hurt. Maybe you were strict because you thought it would teach them discipline. Maybe you worked long hours because you wanted to provide a better life. But if your children experience those actions as neglect or emotional distance, their feelings are valid. Respecting their truth is the beginning of rebuilding their respect for you. A simple, heartfelt acknowledgement. I know I wasn't perfect, and I may have hurt you in ways I didn't understand at the time. I'm truly sorry for that. Can open emotional doors that have been locked for years. And then, just listen, without defending yourself, without interrupting. Just listen, because respect grows in silence. It grows when we make space for others to be fully seen and heard. Adult children don't want lectures, life lessons, or reminders of how much you sacrificed. They want to know you see them as equals, capable, autonomous, and emotionally valid. Let them speak their truth, even if it stings. Let them feel what they need to feel. That emotional space, that willingness to sit in discomfort without trying to fix or control, is where respect is born. From there, it's about consistency. One apology doesn't change a relationship, but consistent actions, small, reliable, emotionally safe gestures do. Call to ask how they're doing, not to guilt them into visiting. Send a message just to say you're proud of who they've become. Show interest in their lives without judgment or trying to solve their problems. Respect is rebuilt not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, steady presence of someone who is there, not out of obligation, but out of unconditional love. You might also need to step back and ask yourself a painful but powerful question. Have I been trying to regain control instead of rebuilding connection? It's natural to feel a sense of loss when your children no longer need you. But clinging to control through guilt, manipulation, or unsolicited advice only drives them further away. Instead, focus on trust. Trust that they are capable of living their own lives. Trust that the love you built in their childhood still exists underneath the walls that may have gone up. Trust that with time and effort, healing can happen. Another vital piece of the puzzle is vulnerability. So many older parents were raised in a time when showing emotion was seen as weakness. But times have changed. And if you want your adult children to respect you, let them see your heart. Share your fears, not to burden them, but to let them know you're human. Talk about your regrets, your hopes, your growth. Vulnerability doesn't diminish your authority. It elevates your authenticity. It invites empathy. It breaks down barriers. When your children see you not as a stoic figure, but as a real person with real emotions, it allows them to relate to you, to feel closer, and to offer respect from a place of genuine connection. But perhaps the hardest part of this journey is letting go of expectations. Sometimes, no matter how much we grow, how many bridges we try to rebuild, our children may not be ready or willing to meet us halfway. And that's okay. You rebuild respect not because it guarantees a response, but because it's the right thing to do. You plant the seeds. You water them with love, patience, and honesty. And then you wait. Sometimes the harvest is quick. Sometimes it takes years. But the act of reaching out, of being accountable, of showing up in a new way, that is the victory in this process. Don't forget to take care of yourself emotionally. Rebuilding respect is not about self-sacrifice. It's about emotional balance. Seek out community. Talk to others who've been through similar journeys. Consider therapy, not because something is wrong with you, but because personal growth is always possible at any age. And when your children see that you're not just changing for them, but for your own well-being, it sends a powerful message. I respect myself enough to grow. And in turn, that invites respect from others. Remember also to respect their boundaries. Maybe your child isn't ready to talk about the past. Maybe they need space. Respect that. Don't push. Don't demand. Let them know the door is open when they're ready. And in the meantime, keep being kind, steady, and emotionally present. That quiet dignity, that unwavering commitment to growth speaks volumes. And don't underestimate the power of new memories. Rebuilding doesn't mean living in the past. It means creating new moments of connection. Invite your children into your world. Ask them to teach you something new. Show interest in their passions, their careers, their families. Celebrate their wins. Be their biggest fan, not their biggest critic. Laughter, shared hobbies, even simple routines. These are the bricks that rebuild the structure of respect. Ultimately, rebuilding respect with your adult children after 60 is about embracing the most powerful truth of all. It's never too late to change, to love more deeply, to lead with humility, and to reconnect. No matter how broken things may feel, there is always hope. And hope is the most beautiful foundation upon which to rebuild any relationship. Let this be your moment. Not to dwell in regret, but to rise with purpose. Not to chase the past, but to reclaim connection in the present. You are not alone. You are not powerless. You are not done. You are becoming more open, more aware, more ready than ever to show your children not just who you were, but who you've become. And that, more than anything, is worthy of respect. So, what does it really mean to earn someone's respect again? Not because you're their parent, but because you've become someone they look up to, admire, and feel safe around. It means shifting from a role of authority into one of influence. Influence doesn't come from what you demand. It comes from who you are. And who you are, even at 60 or 70 or 80, is still being written. That's the gift and the challenge of this journey. You're not done becoming. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked elements of rebuilding respect: emotional attunement. This isn't a complicated term. It simply means being tuned into someone else's emotional state and responding with empathy. When your adult child is stressed, disappointed, or struggling, do you immediately offer advice or try to solve it? Or do you say, "That sounds really hard. I'm here if you want to talk"? That difference may seem small, but it's everything. Adults want their parents to be emotionally safe people. They don't want judgment. They don't want unsolicited advice. They want to feel emotionally held, not emotionally handled. Your ability to offer calm presence instead of control is a core pillar of respect. Also, don't underestimate how much language matters. The words you use shape how safe your children feel around you. Are your conversations full of "you shoulds" or "why don't yous"? Or are they filled with "I hear you, that makes sense," or "tell me more about that"? Changing your language doesn't mean walking on eggshells. It means speaking in ways that open hearts rather than shut them down. If you've spent years being critical or reactive, this change might surprise them at first. But over time, it becomes a new rhythm. One built not on fear or correction, but mutual care and emotional intelligence that let's not forget the role of expectations. Sometimes, our biggest emotional pain comes not from what is, but from what we thought should be. Maybe you imagined that by this stage of life, your family would be close, your children would call often, and holidays would be full of laughter and warmth. But life, as it often does, went differently, and those expectations became silent burdens for you and for them. Releasing those expectations doesn't mean giving up on closeness. It means loving them as they are, not as you wish they were. That kind of love, unconditional, unpressured, is the kind that earns respect naturally, because it frees your children from emotional debt. It tells them, "You don't have to perform or prove anything to be loved by me." And here's a powerful truth. You don't need to be perfect to be respected. You just need to be real. Real with your feelings, real with your growth, real with your intentions. You're allowed to say, "I didn't get everything right, but I'm trying now." That humility doesn't make you small. It makes you big enough to hold the complexity of real relationships. It shows your children that change is possible, even after decades of one dynamic. That courage invites them to reflect, forgive, and grow as well. Sometimes, rebuilding respect starts with rebuilding your own sense of worth. If you've been made to feel like you've failed as a parent, like nothing you did was ever enough, that pain can be paralyzing. But remember, regret doesn't define you. It's just a signpost. And guilt can only weigh you down if you let it. Take what you've learned from your past and let it be a lesson, not a life sentence. You're still a parent. Your role may have changed, but your value hasn't. You bring decades of wisdom, life experience, and love that no one else can offer in the exact way you can. When you walk in that truth, not with pride, but with quiet confidence, it radiates outward. Your children will feel it, even if they don't have the words to say so. Another important aspect to understand is the generational gap, and not just in technology or lifestyle, but in emotional expression. Many adult children today prioritize mental health, boundaries, and emotional transparency in ways that weren't common in previous generations. So, what might feel like rejection or coldness to you, like them setting boundaries or choosing not to discuss certain topics, might actually be their way of protecting their peace, not punishing you. Respect that. Let them lead their emotional lives on their own terms. And if you're open to learning from their way of seeing the world, even better, tell them, "I'm learning a lot about boundaries and emotions these days. I wish I had this language when I was younger." That kind of openness can spark incredible conversations and healing. And when you make a mistake, and you will, because you're human, own it quickly and clearly. "I shouldn't have said that. I realize now how it might have come across. I'm sorry." That one moment of accountability can undo years of emotional misunderstanding. It shows maturity. It shows respect for their feelings. And it builds trust. Sometimes, the real work of rebuilding respect is quiet. It's in choosing not to comment on something that once triggered you. It's in biting your tongue when you're tempted to give advice. It's in showing up to their lives not as a supervisor, but as a supporter. It's in celebrating their wins without comparison. It's in seeing their choices, even if they differ from your values, as worthy of honor and belief. You also have a right to express your needs, but do it with emotional intelligence. If you feel lonely, if you wish for more connection, say so in a way that invites, not demands. For example, "I miss our time together, and I'd love to see you more. But I understand you're busy, and I respect that. Just wanted you to know how I feel." That creates space for empathy, not guilt. And when people feel free, not forced, to love you, they love more deeply. Now let's talk about legacy. After 60, many people begin to think about what they'll leave behind, not just in wealth or possessions, but in memory, in story, in emotional footprint. What do you want your children to say about you when you're gone? That you held on to grudges and control? Or that you grew, changed, and showed them what love looks like, even in hard times? Every moment you choose humility over ego, connection over conflict, growth over blame, you're writing that legacy. You're becoming the parent they'll admire, even if they didn't always understand you before. You don't have to do this alone. Community matters. Surround yourself with people who are also working on themselves. Friends, support groups, therapists, spiritual leaders. Having a place where you feel heard makes it easier to listen to your children without needing to unload on them. Healing happens faster in the presence of others who validate your journey. And don't forget joy. Rebuilding respect doesn't have to be heavy every step of the way. Laughter heals. Fun connects. Share your favorite songs. Watch a movie together. Tell them stories from your youth, not to teach a lesson, but just to share yourself. Let them see your lightness, your humor, your passions. Respect grows when people enjoy being around you, not just out of duty, but because they genuinely feel good in your presence. You may also find healing through writing. Try writing a letter, not to send, but to clarify your own heart. What do you wish you could say? What have you held in for years? What truths have been hiding behind your silence or your anger? Putting it into words, even privately, helps clear emotional fog. And if the time is ever right, maybe parts of that letter can become a bridge toward your children. 2. As you move forward, don't look for perfect results. Look for signs of progress. A longer phone call than usual, a small compliment, a little more laughter, a bit more comfort in the silence. These moments may be subtle, but they're sacred. Cherish them. Celebrate them. Let them fuel your hope. And when setbacks come, and they will, don't let them define the journey. Maybe an old wound flares up. Maybe a conversation goes sideways. That's okay. Growth is never a straight line. Don't retreat into bitterness. Don't let shame take over. Instead, take a breath, reflect, and keep going. Your willingness to stay in the process, to keep showing up with love and humility, is what rebuilds respect, one choice at a time. In the next section, we'll go even deeper. We'll explore how to rebuild relationships if you've been estranged for years, how to navigate difficult personalities, and how to set healthy boundaries of your own while still being emotionally generous. This journey is about rebuilding respect, but it's also about rediscovering yourself. When you've been estranged from your adult child for years, it can feel like standing on opposite sides of a canyon with no bridge in sight. Maybe the distance grew slowly, an argument here, a misstep there, or maybe it was sudden, a rift that cut deep and left both sides raw and silent. Whatever the cause, that silence has weight, and the longer it lasts, the heavier it feels. But here's the truth you must hold on to. Emotional distance doesn't mean permanent disconnection. People can heal, relationships can thaw, and bridges can be rebuilt, plank by plank, word by word, over time. The first step is often the hardest, reaching out. But this step isn't about fixing everything in one message or conversation. It's about opening the door a crack. It might be a handwritten letter, a voice message, a short email. Something that says, "I've been thinking of you. I know there's pain between us. I take responsibility for my part, and I hope we can find a way to reconnect." No pressure, just a desire. That kind of message disarms defenses. It doesn't demand forgiveness or push for a full reunion. It simply plants a seed. And sometimes, all someone needs is permission to feel safe enough to begin again. But here's what's important to understand. After estrangement, your child may not respond right away, or they may respond with guarded words, skepticism, or even anger. Don't let that shake your resolve. Healing takes time, and often, the deeper the wound, the slower the trust rebuilds. This is where your consistency becomes a lifeline. If they respond, stay present. If they pull back, stay kind. If they lash out, stay grounded. Let your words, and more importantly, your energy, say, "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to understand. I'm here to listen." Sometimes, rebuilding respect after long-term disconnection also requires a deep reckoning with your past behaviors. Maybe you weren't emotionally available when they needed you most. Maybe you controlled more than you nurtured. Maybe you said things you now regret deeply. Naming those truths out loud, not defensively, not with qualifiers, but with sincerity, can be one of the most powerful steps you take. Try something like, "I've had time to reflect on who I was when you were growing up. I see now that I was often too harsh, too focused on being right, not enough on being close. I don't expect you to forget that. I just want you to know I see it, and I'm working to be better." That kind of honesty breaks cycles. It opens doors to conversations that once seemed impossible. And yet, as you work to rebuild this relationship, it's equally important to create space for your own boundaries. Respect is not one-sided. If your adult child speaks to you in cruel or demeaning ways, you're allowed to say, "I want to rebuild this relationship, but I also need us to speak to each other with kindness." You're not weak for wanting love. You're not selfish for expecting mutual care. Rebuilding doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. It means walking together towards something healthier than what existed before. Let's now move into a very nuanced piece of this journey: navigating difficult personalities. Maybe your adult child has become someone who's emotionally distant, reactive, or hard to reach. Maybe they've taken on traits you don't understand, political beliefs, lifestyle choices, values that feel foreign to you. In those moments, your instinct might be to confront or challenge. But the path to respect isn't paved with confrontation. It's paved with curiosity. Ask questions not to correct them, but to understand. Tell me what you love about your work. Help me understand what matters most to you right now. That kind of curiosity shows them you're not trying to mold them. You're trying to know them. And what if you've already tried that, but nothing seems to work? What if they still pull away, still hold on to resentment, still act like they don't care? In those moments, don't fall into despair. Instead, anchor yourself in your own emotional growth. Respect isn't always about reconciliation. Sometimes, it's about who you become even when the door stays closed. When you continue evolving, becoming more patient, more emotionally aware, more loving, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for their approval and start living in alignment with your own values. That strength is magnetic. And even if they don't acknowledge it now, they will feel it. And maybe, someday, it will draw them back. Let's now shift into a more proactive mindset. If the relationship is open but fragile, how do you build emotional safety that lasts? It starts with creating space where your adult children feel emotionally secure, not judged, not evaluated, not pressured. One of the greatest gifts you can give them is your emotional presence without conditions. That means being able to sit in their world without trying to fix it. Let them talk. Let them vent. Let them be messy, confused, vulnerable. And instead of offering solutions, offer connection. That must be so overwhelming. I'm really proud of how you're handling things. That kind of response tells them, you're not alone. I believe in you. Small gestures matter more than you realize. A thoughtful message out of the blue, remembering something they said in a past conversation, asking how that project turned out. These moments seem tiny, but they accumulate. They form the emotional glue that strengthens bonds. When your children feel seen, really seen, they start to soften. And when they soften, they begin to respect not just the parent you were, but the person you are becoming. Another key to emotional safety is managing conflict with maturity. If a disagreement arises, and it will, your reaction can either reinforce respect or erode it. Practice pausing before responding. Ask yourself, am I reacting from fear or love? Fear tries to control. Love tries to understand. Fear escalates. Love de-escalates. Instead of defending your point, ask them to help you see theirs. Can you tell me more about why that upset you? That kind of question opens the door to healing in ways that force never will. And let's not forget the role of your own emotional health in this equation. The more you nurture yourself, the more capacity you have to nurture others. Prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Seek therapy if needed. Engage in spiritual practices, meditation, journaling, whatever helps you stay grounded. Because when your cup is full, you bring calm, clarity, and compassion into every interaction. That emotional foundation builds trust. It creates a home, an emotional home your children will feel drawn to return to. And now, let's look at a beautiful truth. Respect grows from admiration. When your children admire how you live, how you love, how you carry yourself through life's challenges, they naturally want to be closer to you. So ask yourself, what kind of life am I living right now? Is it filled with curiosity, growth, laughter, purpose? Or is it weighed down by bitterness, resentment, and regret? You can't control their path, but you can shape your own. Pursue passions, volunteer, start something new, laugh often, be joyful. That joy is infectious. It sends a quiet message. Life is still beautiful, and I'm still choosing to grow. As you continue rebuilding respect, keep remembering this. Progress is often invisible. Your children may not say, "Wow, I respect you so much more now," but you'll see it in their tone, in their eyes, in the time they choose to spend with you, in the trust they begin to show again. Respect is not always announced. Sometimes it's just felt, quietly, deeply. So stay the course. Keep showing up. Keep listening. Keep healing. You're not trying to return to the past. You're building something new. And that something, born of courage, humility, and love, is even more powerful than what came before.